At our table, the bride leaned in and whispered I didn't belong in her photos. I smiled, stood, and left, with her hired photographer at my side, because by then I'd learned the whole truth, and my plan was already rolling forward. Before watching the video, please tell us in the comments from where you are watching this video. The place card should have told me everything. My name, Grant Ellison, was printed last, bottom right of the last table by the restroom doors. No +1, no title, just my name, like an afterthought. Everyone else had their cards tucked near the dance floor, right under the chandeliers. I noticed it the second I walked into the reception hall, but I said nothing. That's how I handle insults. I let them sit for a while before I decide what they're really worth. The wedding had that Pinterest perfect glow, white drapes, candles, and a jazz band that looked like they'd been curated for photos. Madison, the bride, had spent 8 months planning every inch. I knew because I'd heard about it from Tyler, the groom, every single week while we were still running the company together. He and I started Ellison Advanced Logistics 6 years ago, just 2 guys in a warehouse renting trucks and dreaming of scaling up. We made it to 7 figures in 3 years. Then Madison showed up. At first she was polite, helpful even. Then the tone changed, fewer we conversations, more Tyler's vision. I watched as my name started fading from decks, proposals, and press releases. By the time he proposed to her, I already knew I'd be seated near the restrooms. When I arrived, people smiled politely, most out of habit. Madison's mother gave me the kind of nod you give to the help. I smiled back. It wasn't the first time I'd been treated like furniture. Lena, the photographer, was moving around the tables, her Canon slung across her chest. I'd hired her 3 years back for a company event, efficient, no ego, just good work. We'd stayed in touch professionally. I noticed her shooting quietly from the corners, avoiding the chaos Madison orchestrated with her clipboard assistant. During the first round of speeches, I kept my head down. I didn't drink, didn't talk much. I just watched. The way Madison leaned on Tyler's arm for balance when she laughed too loudly. The way Tyler's smile tightened each time his college buddies teased him about marrying into management. When dinner ended, Madison began gathering guests for the official wedding photos. She arranged people like chess pieces, parents, siblings, bridesmaids, groomsmen. Then she pointed toward the side tables. Friends of the groom, let's do a quick group shot. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and started walking toward the line forming under the arch of lights. She caught my eye and motioned slightly, a subtle shake of her head. Not yet, Grant, she said, still smiling for the crowd. We'll do the business. Friends later. Business friends, I repeated softly. The words rolled off my tongue like a label. I stopped, halfway to the arch. People glanced between us. A few shifted uncomfortably. Tyler looked at me, his mouth opening like he wanted to fix it but couldn't. Madison turned back to the photographer. Okay, let's keep this one tight, she said, waving Lena closer. Just family and real friends. The word real landed like a glass dropped on tile. Lena looked at me, then back at Madison. I caught the hesitation in her lens hand. She knew something wasn't right, but she wasn't paid to intervene. Not yet. I didn't move for a full 10 seconds. Then I smiled, calm and measured. You know what, Madison? I said evenly. You're right. Her smile flickered, unsure if I was agreeing or mocking her. I don't belong in your photos. I turned and walked toward the back of the hall, past the catering staff and the open bar. I didn't hurry. My chest was steady, my head clear. The insult didn't sting. It confirmed everything I'd been preparing for. At the door, I paused. Lena, I said quietly. She looked up from her camera. Let's go. She hesitated, glancing at the bride. I'm still on the clock, she whispered. Not anymore, I said. Check your contract. The retainer came from my LLC. Her brows lifted. She didn't say a word, but she followed me out, camera still in hand. Outside, the evening air was cooler, cleaner. The parking lot lights hummed overhead. I walked toward my car, hands in my pockets. Lena caught up beside me. You're serious? You hired me? I did, I said. On paper, your client is Ellison Advanced Logistics. That means I can terminate for cause. Disrespect, mistreatment, breach of conduct clause. She blinked. Breach of conduct. I nodded. It's the clause nobody reads. I wrote it myself. She laughed once, short and sharp. Guess I picked the right client. Guess you did. We stood there a moment, listening to the muffled music through the walls. Inside, the band was playing Can't Help Falling in Love. Out here it sounded like static. You really gonna leave them with no photos? She asked quietly. Oh, they'll have photos, I said. Just not the ones they expected. She tilted her head. That sounds like payback. Not payback, I said. Documentation. She studied me for a second, then raised her camera and snapped a shot. I didn't pose. She didn't ask me to. That one's on me, she said. Keep it, I replied. You'll understand later. I opened my car door, still calm. The day had been leading here from the start. The insult, the contracts, the misplaced trust. I wasn't angry. I was ready. Tomorrow the real photos would start to surface, and every frame would tell the truth Madison worked so hard to hide. We started in a rented garage behind tire shop off Route 41. The floor smelled like rubber and spilled coffee, and our desks were 2 folding tables. Tyler handled sales calls while I mapped routes on a whiteboard. We leased 1 box truck, then another, and slept on shop couches. 3 more clients and we break even, he'd say, chewing a pen cap. I'd answer, 2 if they accept net 15 instead of net 30. We shook on small wins and took photos with our phones. It wasn't glamorous, but we owned every inch of it. Cash flow ruled everything, so I learned fast and stayed strict. I set up a basic ledger and tracked every invoice, every diesel receipt, every late fee. We opened a small line of credit and used it like a scalpel. We can stretch fuel to Tuesday, I'd tell him each Friday. He'd nod and hit the phones again. When a shipper tried to push 90-day terms, I pushed back hard. We're not a bank, I said, flat and calm. Tyler laughed and called me our unofficial CFO. Our first real break was a local furniture chain with 4 stores. They needed predictable runs and Saturday coverage for returns. I built a schedule that stacked deliveries like Tetris blocks. Tyler charmed the store owner with weekend check-ins and free tie-downs. They're going to renew, he told me after month 1. I answered, let's lock the rate for 6 months while fuel is steady. We signed a short contract and hit 93% on-time delivery. That gave us a reputation, and the calls started coming. We grew careful, not reckless, and we put it in writing. Our operating agreement split decisions. Tyler owned sales, and I owned operations. Major moves required both signatures. It kept us honest and even. We protect the company from ourselves, I said when we signed. He grinned and clapped my shoulder. I added a vesting clause so neither of us could bail with equity. It was fair and balanced, and we left the notary feeling like adults. For 2 years, it worked exactly as designed. Madison arrived through a friend who loved her Instagram. She ran events at a hotel and knew wedding planners and PR assistants. Tyler met her at a tasting and came back glowing. She gets brand, he said, setting down sample macarons. I nodded and asked, can brand move pallets faster? He laughed and said I needed to see the big picture. She visited the warehouse with a phone light and called our boxes aesthetic. I smiled, but I watched Tyler chasing her words. The changes started small and felt like style, not substance. She suggested new polos and a sleek website with lifestyle photos. Trucks are trucks, I said, but clients buy trust and time. She replied, clients buy stories first, and Tyler agreed. I approved the spend and capped the budget publicly. Then I noticed our debt credit shifting from Grant and Tyler to Tyler and Grant. I let it pass, counting late pallets and driver overtime instead. Numbers tell truths even brand can't bend. Revenue doubled the next year, but our costs rose right alongside. Madison pushed for a pop-up booth at a trade show and 3 influencer posts. Influencers don't buy freight, I said, tapping the P&L line. Tyler countered, but they buy attention, and signed a deposit. I cut warehouse overtime to cover the gap and renegotiated our fuel surcharge. Drivers grumbled but stayed because I kept payroll clean and on time. You're the adult in the room, one told me during a lunch break. I heard it and tucked it away for later. The board idea came from Madison after a brunch with her cousin. Advisors make you look investable, she told Tyler in front of me. I agreed to a light advisory panel, but kept voting control even. Our attorney warned us, don't create veto points you'll regret. I underlined that sentence in the draft and sent it around. The final document preserved our 2-signature rule for debt and equity. We stay partners, Tyler texted that night with a thumbs up emoji. I replied, we stay partners, and believed it. Press followed the trade show, and Madison became our unofficial spokesperson. She wrote quotes that credited Tyler's vision and our brand evolution. My name slid to the last paragraph or vanished completely. I didn't chase reporters or ask for corrections. I built the dispatch logic that cut idle time by 12%. You made the engine run. our lead dispatcher said during a midnight shift. Engines don't get headlines, I answered, and kept tuning the system. I figured results would steady everything over time. Tension grew when a regional chain dangled a big, risky contract. The lane looked sweet on paper, but punished late arrivals with steep penalties. I ran a stress test and saw thin margins and driver burnout. We need more drivers or smarter routing, I told Tyler across the conference table. Madison said, "We need to look bigger," and pushed a press angle. Tyler stared at me and asked, "Can you make it work?" I said, "With staffing and a tighter penalty clause." He signed the deal without the clause and told me after. I didn't shout, I started a list. That list lived in a plain notebook marked routing notes. I logged every time my signature was skipped and every scope creep. I included dates, subject lines, and who said what. Documentation isn't drama, I told myself driving home each night. It kept my head clear and my tone even at work. When Tyler apologized over beers, I nodded and changed nothing. Apologies don't rewrite terms, signatures do. The list made that difference obvious and cold. By spring we were stable, but the story around us wasn't. Madison pitched a glossy rebrand that cut Ellison from the top line. "Shorter name reads stronger," she said, sliding mock-ups toward Tyler. He looked at me and tried a careful smile. "It's just design," he said, "not ownership." I answered, "Design teaches people who built the thing." Madison said, "Clients don't need inside baseball." I said, "My partners do," and asked for a vote. The room went quiet, and Tyler suggested revisit later. Later showed up through a photographer's invoice for an investor feature. The retainer line item named my company because I'd booked the vendor first. Madison wanted a house shooter, but the dates didn't work. I told Tyler I'd cover the deposit to keep momentum. "Do it," he said, distracted by his phone. I added a clause to the agreement, normal but pointed. If the subject or crew faced mistreatment, the client could reassign the shoot. It protected the worker and quietly protected me. The investor feature never happened because the investor passed. The contract stayed in my folder with the other quiet papers. I started to see where the wedding would lead months before the invite. The engagement party placed me far from the speeches for photos, and I noticed. Madison's texts about brand alignment became exclude operational noise, and I noticed. Tyler answered less and less, then copied me on summaries, and I noticed. None of it required anger. It asked for attention. Attention is a better tool than rage. When the wedding invitation arrived, the envelope felt heavy and deliberate. My place card request went unanswered, which told me enough. I RSVP'd yes and called Lena to confirm my deposit still stood. "I've got you," she said, keeping it simple and professional. I sent a revised addendum with the same conduct clause, cleaner language. She read it and replied, "Fair and standard," which is what I wanted. The rest of my plan was patience and clear boundaries. People reveal themselves if you give them the stage. On the wedding day, I walked in with open eyes and a steady pulse. I checked exits, the lighting, and the staff quietly hustling plates. I nodded to the band and to the servers because they matter most. Tyler hugged me and looked past me for someone else. Madison smiled like a brand shoot and moved me toward the edge. I thanked the usher and sat where they placed me. When the insult finally landed, it found no target. It landed on the plan I had already built. The contract was 4 pages long, single-spaced, clean font, and boring on purpose. People ignore what looks routine, and that's where leverage lives. I wrote the draft during a slow quarter, using language from our vendor templates. The clause sat in section 7, halfway down. Client may reassign services to alternate representative if personnel experience mistreatment, disruption, or breach of professional respect. Simple, almost polite. Most read right past it. When the company photo shoot came up, I pulled the file from my drive. "We'll use the same structure for the wedding coverage," I told Lena over the phone. "Only the names change." She asked, "Still under Ellison and Vance?" "Logistics?" I said yes. That detail mattered more than either of us admitted then. Madison wanted her cousin's media friend to handle the shoot, but he was already booked. Tyler texted me at midnight, "We just need someone reliable. Can you handle it?" I typed back, "Already done." I sent Lena's quote and wired the retainer the next morning. That transfer made her contract active under my company's account. The signature line read, "Grant Ellison, Managing Member." Tyler never looked twice. Madison didn't ask. She was busy color-coding napkin rings and seating charts. A week later, she emailed Lena directly, CCing me. to adjust deliverables. We'll need extra prep shots of the bridal suite, she wrote. Lena replied, noted, and sent an updated schedule. Madison didn't notice that the client signature field stayed blank. I kept the executed version safe in my folder. It wasn't malice, it was structure, a quiet backup plan for moments when power got confused with ownership. I'd seen too many partnerships crash because one person wanted to rewrite history after success arrived. Contracts don't stop betrayal, but they give shape to consequences. Tyler called me 3 days before the wedding. Madison's been on edge, he said. She just wants it perfect. I told him perfection always comes with collateral damage. He chuckled, tired. You'll keep it smooth, right? He asked. I answered, that's why I write things down. He didn't catch the tone. That same night, Lena sent a message. Quick question. Bride mentioned a social media embargo? I opened her draft and scanned it. Madison had added a note saying, photographer may not post any images unless approved by bride. I wrote back, you follow the original contract. Ownership stays with the client, not the subject. She replied, got it. You're the client, right? I typed, on paper, yes. Just keep the professionalism steady. The morning of the rehearsal dinner, Madison's assistant called to confirm payment clearance. I gave polite answers, knowing full well their ledger listed paid by Grant Ellison LLC. She thanked me like I was staff. I didn't correct her. There's no point teaching people respect. You let the situation show them instead. During the rehearsal, I watched Tyler practice his vows. He stumbled once and smiled at me across the aisle. You good? He mouthed. I gave a thumbs up. He didn't know that the same steadiness he counted on at work now lived behind the lens, ready to pivot when needed. Lena worked quietly, blending into the venue staff. She caught details others missed. The grip of nervous hands, the sideways looks, the tension behind smiles. I saw her angle toward Madison once, lower the camera slightly, and wait until the bride stopped barking orders. Later, she told me, she treats everyone like furniture. I answered, it's temporary. Cameras remember more than words. The contract wasn't about revenge then. It was insurance against disrespect. I'd learned from deals gone bad that silence backed by documentation speaks louder than confrontation. People reveal themselves. You just have to keep the record clean enough that you don't have to explain later. 2 days before the ceremony, Tyler texted me a list of deliverables Madison wanted added. More family portraits, extra video coverage, same-day edits for her socials. I replied, that's outside scope, requires new approval. He said, just make it happen. I'll cover costs. I said, it's already covered. He thanked me, unaware the extra requests triggered the contract's protection clause. The night before the wedding, I double-checked every line item. Photographer, confirmed. Backup SD cards, confirmed. Clause, verified. There's a certain peace in knowing the paperwork favors you when respect doesn't. I slept fine. When the insult came, you don't belong in the photos, I didn't react from ego. I reacted from preparation. The clause wasn't revenge written on paper. It was foresight given teeth. Lena witnessed it firsthand and followed protocol exactly as designed. Immediate notification, verbal confirmation, reassignment. Outside the venue, under the parking lot lights, she asked, what happens next? I told her the same thing I told new drivers when routes changed mid-shift. We follow procedure. She frowned. You're really calm for a guy who just got iced out of his friend's wedding. I said, calm is the luxury of the document. That weekend, I sent a single email. Subject line, notice of reassignment, wedding coverage. It went to Madison, Tyler, and the planner. I quoted Section 7, attached the signed agreement, and copied my attorney. The language was surgical. Due to breach of professional respect towards service personnel, the client hereby reassigns services under the existing contract. No threats, no emotion, just execution. By Monday morning, Lena's edited batch went live privately to my account folder, timestamped and watermarked. Madison's publicist called her in a panic about missing coverage. Tyler texted me, what's going on? They said we don't have the raw files. I answered, talk to your wife. She's the one who decided who belonged in the photos. There was a long pause before he replied, is this about the table thing? I typed, it's about ownership, of companies, of images, of respect. Then I muted the thread. Contracts don't create fairness. They just record who ignored it. The next morning, headlines and hashtags replaced wedding bliss. Madison had arranged a local magazine to cover her ceremony. One of those inspirational small business love stories. I found out when the editor emailed me directly, asking to confirm the logistics company Tyler Vance founded. I wrote back one word: co-founded. No signature, no follow-up. I knew that would be enough to make them hesitate. The wedding itself had unfolded like a stage play. Every movement was choreographed, from the bridesmaids' synchronized laughter to the way Tyler's boutonniere matched the champagne labels. The problem with rehearsed perfection is that it leaves no room for honesty. I wasn't angry about being excluded. I was watching a brand campaign unfold, one that used my sweat equity as background texture. The insult came quietly, like all real cuts do. The moment Madison gestured toward the photographer and said, "Off the edge, please," she didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The people closest to her, PR handlers, bridesmaids, Tyler's new investor friends, already understood the hierarchy. I wasn't a guest. I was a liability she couldn't crop out easily enough. "Sorry," the planner whispered as she moved me aside. "The bride just wants tighter framing." "Tighter framing," I repeated. The phrase tasted like management speak, neat and bloodless. I stepped back 2 paces and stopped. My jaw didn't tighten. My pulse didn't spike. I simply observed. Tyler stood frozen, camera flash catching on the sweat along his temple. Madison tilted her chin like she was in a perfume ad. "Smile, everyone," Lena said, her voice professional but clipped. She looked at me for half a heartbeat. We both knew this image would become symbolic, not for love, but for omission. When the session wrapped, Madison spun toward the PR team. "Let's do solo shots of Tyler with the guys," she said. She pointed at Kyle, then paused when her eyes met mine. "Actually, just the groomsmen," she added. "We'll get candid ones of everyone else later." It wasn't subtle anymore. Guests noticed. You can feel when a room collectively pretends not to. A few smiled too brightly. Others looked down. Kyle, the best man, shifted uncomfortably. He tried to speak, but Tyler shot him a quick look. That silent plea men give each other when pride outweighs principle. Lena lowered her camera again. "Just confirming," she said evenly. "You don't want Mr. Ellison in any group frames?" Madison gave a sugar-sweet smile. "No, thank you. We're keeping this family focused." Lena nodded and pressed the shutter button halfway down, a professional reflex, not obedience. Her lens stayed still. That's when I knew she was on my side, not out of loyalty, but out of ethics. Photographers live by truth, not politics. The music swelled, glasses clinked, and conversations swallowed the tension. I drifted toward the bar where Kyle eventually found me. "Man, that was rough," he said under his breath. "She's something." "Tyler always liked a challenge," I said. "You think he even saw how bad that looked?" "I think he saw everything," I answered. "He just doesn't know what to do with it yet." Kyle rubbed the back of his neck. "You gonna stay?" "I already stayed long enough," I said. He hesitated. "You're not gonna do something stupid, are you?" I smiled. "No, I'm gonna do something smart." He looked relieved and worried at the same time. "You sound like you've been planning this." "I have," I said, sipping my water, "for about 2 years. I left before dessert, slipping through the side hallway near the catering station. Behind me, I heard laughter forced just loud enough to fill a camera frame. That's how you know it's fake. Outside, Lena was waiting near her car, packing up equipment. "You weren't kidding," she said quietly. "They really did that." "They did," I said. "And now it's on record." She zipped her camera bag. "You want me to delete anything?" "No," I said. "Keep everything. Just don't release it yet." She nodded slowly. "So, this is bigger than wedding drama?" "It's about a pattern," I said. "Same pattern that shows up in boardrooms, emails, and branding decks." She leaned against her car door. "And your plan?" "I don't embarrass people," I said. "I remind them of what they signed." She gave a small knowing laugh. "You really are an operator, only when necessary." The next morning, while Madison posted a filtered happily ever after story, I reviewed the venue's image release agreements. Each one named the photographer, and by extension the contracting entity, as the rights holder. That meant every official image was technically under my LLC until I transferred ownership. By noon, I drafted an email to the magazine editor who had reached out earlier. I attached 2 preview photos, nothing incriminating, just unflattering candids of Madison mid-yell, hair disheveled, staff looking terrified. The caption line read, "Behind the scenes, the business of perfection." I didn't send it. Not yet. The goal wasn't public destruction, it was accountability. When Tyler called that evening, his tone was cautious. "Madison's upset," he said. She thinks you embarrassed her. I didn't say a word, I replied. She did that herself. She says you took the photographer. I reassigned the contract, I said. Clause 7, Section B. He sighed. You and your clauses, man. Couldn't you just let it slide? Would you? I asked. Silence. Then quietly, maybe not. That's what I thought, I said, and hung up. I wasn't proud, but I was clear. Respect isn't requested. It's enforced through boundaries people didn't expect you to have. The photos weren't weapons, they were mirrors. And soon, Madison would see exactly what her reflection looked like when the filters dropped. Monday morning came quiet, the kind of quiet that hums right before fallout begins. My phone stayed face down beside a cooling cup of coffee. I didn't need to look at it to know what. Messages waited. Tyler, probably half apologetic, and Madison, probably not at all. By 9, the first email arrived. Subject line, urgent, photo access request. It came from Madison's new assistant, someone who joined right after the engagement. She wrote, "The bride and groom would like immediate access to all digital proofs." I read it twice and smiled. Then I replied with a single line, "Per contract, please direct all requests to the client of record." That was all it took to shift the panic their way. 10 minutes later, Tyler called. "Grant, come on," he said, his voice worn thin. "She's losing it. The magazine's waiting, and Lena's saying she can't release anything without your go-ahead." "She's correct," I said evenly. "Look, man, this is just a misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding implies I didn't see it happen," I said. "I was standing right there when your wife told me I didn't belong in her photos." He went quiet. I could almost hear him rubbing his forehead the way he used to before investor meetings. "She shouldn't have said that," he muttered. "But can't we fix this without lawyers?" "Tyler," I said, calm but final, "it's already fixed. The files are secure, the contract is clean, and no one's suing anyone yet. Just take a breath." He exhaled. "So what do you want?" "I want you to read the partnership agreement again," I said. "Specifically the part about brand use and attribution." He paused. "You're mixing business and personal, man." "No," I said. "Madison did that when she turned our company's history into her wedding headline." That ended the call. I spent the rest of the morning at a diner off I-65, same place we used to meet suppliers years ago. Cheap coffee, quiet booths, and a waitress who remembered orders but never names. I opened my laptop and scrolled through our shared folders. Madison's rebrand proposal sat there in bold. Advanced Logistics 2.0, Modern Partnerships, Timeless Service. Every slide was a study in omission. No mention of Ellison, no logo history, no founding story, just a pretty timeline that began 3 years after we'd started. I saved a copy, then exported my own version. Same file, same layout, but with every deleted fact restored and highlighted in red. The difference looked surgical. By lunch, Kyle texted me. "You free?" We met behind the warehouse, where he still managed dispatch. He looked tired, like someone caught between loyalty and truth. "She's already rewriting things, man," he said. "Investors got a new deck this morning. No Ellison anywhere." "I figured," I said. He handed me a flash drive. "This has the deck she sent. Also emails. She told the design team to pull your name for optics." "Optics," I repeated. "That's Madison's favorite word." Kyle nodded. "She doesn't get that half the contracts still have your name on them." "She will," I said, pocketing the drive. "Tyler's drowning," he added quietly. "He's not bad. He's just weak where she's strong." "That imbalance is by design," I said. "She builds control by making other people feel tired." Kyle shook his head. "You're not gonna nuke him, are you?" "No," I said. "Just reset the record." That afternoon, I forwarded the flash drive to my attorney. He called within the hour. "You're sitting on a full documentation chain," he said. "You could file for breach of partnership acknowledgement and win." "I don't want to win," I said. "I want clarity." He chuckled. "You always were a minimalist when it came to revenge." "It's not revenge," I said. "It's correction." The next day, Lena called. "So, update. Madison tried to get me blacklisted with the event network," she said. "Claimed I breached confidentiality." "Did she mention Clause 7? I asked. "She did, but she thought it was a suggestion. People like her always do." "What now?" she asked. "Send me the email," I said. "I'll handle it." I drafted a brief response to the network director, attaching the signed contract. I highlighted the section giving me, not Madison, control of image rights and representation. Then I added one more line. Photographer acted under direct client instruction in full compliance with terms. An hour later, Lena texted. "They reversed it. I'm reinstated." Good, I wrote back. Consider this the first correction. By Thursday, the fallout had spread. The magazine quietly postponed their feature, citing creative direction conflicts. One of our investors called me directly. Heard some noise about a wedding PR issue, he said. Should we be concerned? Only if you believe photos tell the whole story, I said. He laughed. Still as composed as ever. That's why I trust your side of things. Appreciate that, I said. Keep watching the filings. There'll be updates soon. He didn't ask for details. He didn't have to. That evening I met Lena again, this time at a cafe downtown. She brought her laptop and opened a folder labeled The Whole Wedding, Raw. Thought you might want to see, she said. I scrolled through frame after frame. Smiles that didn't reach eyes, forced poses, tension disguised as joy. Then one image stopped me cold. Tyler looking directly at me during the ceremony, expression unreadable. You caught that? I asked. Couldn't miss it, she said. He looked like someone realizing something too late. I sat back. Yeah, that sounds about right. She hesitated. So, what happens now? Next is paperwork, I said. Quiet, precise paperwork. She smiled faintly. You plan like a chess player. Only when someone flips the board, I said. That night I sent Tyler one final message. We need to talk. Without her. No threats, no attachments, just an opening. The truth was already out there, in emails, in contracts, in pictures. It didn't need shouting. The noise was all on their side now. Sometimes revenge doesn't need fire. It just needs silence loud enough to make liars hear themselves. Lena met me at the small studio she rented above a bike shop. The place smelled like coffee and printer ink, with framed work lining a narrow hall. She handed me a release form and a glass of water without a word. I read the form, then set it back on her desk. You're safe, I said. The clause worked exactly as planned. She sat, elbows on her knees, studying my face like it was another subject. You don't look angry, she said quietly. I'm not, I answered. I'm finished pretending certain lines don't matter. That set our tone for the rest of the meeting. I opened my laptop and pulled up the agreement. Section 7 explains reassignment for disrespect, I said, pointing to the paragraph. It's not a trap, it's a boundary. She nodded and traced the sentence with her finger. Most clients skip this part, she said. They only care about usage and payment. I scrolled to the right section and highlighted the chain of control. Payment is respect in writing, I said. Rights are memory beyond today. She leaned back and exhaled. You talk like a lawyer, she said. I talk like a guy who's been erased, I replied. The room stayed quiet for a beat, long enough to make the point. We walked through the files she had backed up to 2 drives. Raw on both, edits on one, she said, tapping labels. I asked about timestamps, metadata, and venue releases. She had it all organized, which mattered more now than any caption. Madison called 3 times, she added. Said I'd never work their network again. I kept my voice even. Network's like clean paper, I said. Clean paper says you did your job. She smiled just a little. Feels good to be boring and correct, she said. It always does, I answered. I showed her a draft email I planned to send Tyler. Short, no adjectives, just facts, I said. The message asked for a meeting without third parties and attached nothing. You think he'll come alone? She asked. He will if he wants a future at the company, I said. Pressure makes men choose. She closed her laptop. What if he chooses her? I didn't flinch. Then we separate cleanly, I said. Buyout, attribution correction, and a non-disparagement. She studied me again. You built all the exits, she said. I learned to before anyone lights a match, I said. We drove to the venue that afternoon to return her vendor badge. The planner spotted us by the service door and put on a fast smile. We're all good now, right? She asked, voice high and bright. I handed over the badge and kept my tone flat. All requests go through the client, I said. She blinked and tried again. Bride needs a few candids for a thank you post. Lena didn't answer. She looked at me instead. No candids, I said. No post. The planner muttered something about spirit of celebration. I said, respect is the spirit. Inside, a few staff-packed floral arches while a janitor mopped. Madison strode in from the bridal suite with a phone and a fresh script. There you are, she said to Lena. We can forget yesterday if you hand over the files. Lena kept her hands at her sides. I work for the client, she said. Madison gave me a quick, tight smile. Of course you're involved, she said. You never miss a chance to be center stage. I kept my voice level. I'm not here for a stage, I said. I'm here to keep people honest. She scoffed and turned to the planner. "Make a note that we will not be paying for delays," she said. The planner looked at me, confused. I said, "You already paid the client in full." Madison stepped closer. Lower voice, colder edge. "You think you're powerful with your little clauses," she said. "You're just a back office guy with a pen." I didn't react. I counted the beats between her words. "Back office guys know where every signature lives," I said. "We decide when the story gets printed." She laughed once, sharp and empty. "You want to be famous off my wedding?" she asked. "I want accuracy," I said. "Fame is your drug, not mine." Lena lifted her camera a few inches, then set it back down. She had already decided who looked good under real light. Tyler entered from the hall, jacket off, tie loosened. He saw us and slowed, hands open. "Can we talk?" he asked, eyes on me first. "We can," I said, "but not here." Madison started to speak, but he raised a hand. "Give me 5 minutes," he said to her. She stared, then walked toward the suite with the planner in tow. The door closed harder than it needed to. He looked tired in a way sleep wouldn't fix. "This got out of control," he said. "It started in your inbox," I said. "It ends in a conference room." He nodded once. "Tomorrow, noon," he said. "No phones." "Fine," I said. "Bring your operating agreement." On the way out, Lena paused by a window where late sun spilled across the floor. "Golden hour would be perfect right here," she said. I looked at the light and nodded. "Tomorrow we'll have one too," I said. "Only this time we'll choose the angle." She smiled, but it was cautious. "You sure about the leaving part?" she asked. "Walking out during golden hour is a message." "Messages matter," I said. "Page placement matters. Timing matters." She locked her bag and slung it over her shoulder. "Then we plan our exit like a shot list," she said. "Exactly," I answered. We stopped by her studio again to duplicate the drives. She labeled one client master and sealed it in a fireproof pouch. "If anything happens to me, this gets to you," she said. I shook my head. "Nothing happens to you," I said. "Worst case, someone sends a nasty email." She laughed softly. "Photographers get worse," she said. "People think we're just buttons and edits." I considered that, then wrote a short letter on her studio printer. It confirmed her actions as directed by the client, with contract references. I signed and scanned it to both drives. "Paper shields people who do the right thing," I said. "Keep the shield." That night, my message to the magazine changed. I didn't threaten or tease leaks. I wrote a straight note about the postponement and thanked them for reconsidering. Then I attached a single image. The room without guests, chairs crooked, light fading. "This is the real story," the caption read. "Perfection costs something." I didn't hit send. I saved it to drafts where it could breathe. Revenge wants speed. Correction wants accuracy. I chose the second and slept well. By the next afternoon, the sky burned gold over the city. The kind of light photographers chase and planners pray for. Golden hour. The moment that makes everything look softer, kinder, more forgiving. I wasn't in the mood for forgiveness. Tyler showed up at the downtown co-working office right on time. No entourage, no Madison. Just him, sleeves rolled, eyes tired. The receptionist nodded us toward the glass meeting room we'd used in the early days, back when board meetings meant brainstorming delivery routes over takeout sandwiches. He shut the door behind him. "You look calm," he said. "I am," I replied. "That's the difference between panic and preparation." He sat, rubbed his temples, and sighed. "She's furious, man. Said you're blackmailing her with photos." "I don't blackmail," I said. "I document." "Semantics," he muttered. "You could just hand over the files." "Could," I said. "But they belong to the company that paid for them." He looked up. "Grant, come on. You really want to play lawyer over wedding photos?" I leaned forward. "It's not about photos, Tyler. It's about how easily she erased me, and how easily you let her." His mouth opened, then closed. "It's not that simple." "It always starts simple," I said, "until people start treating loyalty like a liability." He slumped back. "You think I meant to screw you?" "I think you stopped noticing when she did." Silence hung heavy between us. Outside the glass wall, people typed, laughed, lived. Inside, the air thickened with 6 years of shared history and unspoken resentment. "I built this with you," he said quietly. "Every mile, every client, and every decision," I said. "But somewhere along the way, your name became the brand, and mine became the footnote." He shook his head. "That wasn't my call." "It was," I said, "because silence is a choice." He stared at the table for a long time before asking, "So what now?" I slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed pages, our partnership agreement, Madison's emails from Kyle's flash drive, and a clean buyout draft. 3 options, I said. 1. We restore the record, public statement, equal recognition. 2. You buy me out fair and clean. 3. I let the truth speak for itself. He flipped through the papers, jaw tightening as he read the red highlighted sections where Madison's edits removed my name from documents. "She said it was just formatting," he whispered. "It was erasure," I said, "disguised as aesthetics." He looked up, eyes glassy but clear. "If I fix this, you'll let the wedding stuff go?" "If you fix it publicly and permanently, yes," I said. "Otherwise, I let people see what respect looks like when it's missing." He nodded slowly. "You really think people care about some business logistics company drama?" "No," I said, "but investors care about integrity, and clients care about who they're really signing with." He rubbed his jaw. "You've changed." "I grew up," I said. "You should try it." He let out a humorless laugh. "Madison's not going to take this well." "I'm not negotiating with her," I said. "I'm talking to my partner." He looked at the folder again, then back at me. "Give me until tomorrow." "You have until sunset," I said. "Then I file the correction myself." He stood, hand trembling slightly. "You're serious?" "Completely," I said. "Golden hour ends fast." He left without another word. Lena arrived 10 minutes later, carrying her camera bag and a calm I envied. "How'd it go?" she asked. "He's deciding if he wants to be a man or a mascot," I said. She sat across from me. "You really meant that line about documentation, didn't you?" "Always," I said. "Facts don't shout, they stay steady." She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. "This is yours," she said. Inside were printed contact sheets from the wedding. Not the staged shots, the real ones. Madison mid-command, staff exhausted, Tyler looking lost, and one frame of me, standing at the back, half in shadow, watching. "You kept these?" I asked. "They tell the story you didn't say out loud," she said. "Sometimes revenge is just context." I looked at the photos under the amber light streaming through the windows. "You ever regret what you capture?" I asked. "Only when people don't learn from it," she said. "You?" "Only when people think silence means surrender." We left the building just as the light began to fade. The skyline caught fire for a moment, glass and steel turning to gold. "Golden hour," she said softly. "Yep," I said. "Time to pivot." She smiled. "Pivot how?" Pointed toward the small park across the street. "There's a gazebo there," I said. "Let's shoot something new, something that belongs to us." She hesitated, then followed. I stood where the light hit evenly, no shadows, no filters. She raised her camera, adjusted the focus, and snapped 3 frames. "There," she said. "Balanced." I nodded. "Feels like a reset." As we packed up, my phone buzzed. A message from Tyler. Just 3 words. "We'll fix it." I showed Lena the screen. She smiled. "You think he means it?" "We'll see," I said. "Either way, the truth already has better lighting." That evening, I sat on my balcony, the city lights replacing the sunset. For the first time in months, I didn't feel erased. I felt centered, measured, documented. Revenge hadn't been the point. Alignment had. And if people mistook the two, that was their problem. By the time I woke the next morning, my inbox was already full. Reporters, suppliers, a few curious investors. The wedding fallout had reached the business pages. Someone leaked that the bride's logistics firm was facing internal restructuring. I didn't leak it, but I wasn't about to correct it either. Some truth spread best when left unfiltered. The first email I opened was from the magazine editor who had canceled Madison's feature. "We're pivoting the angle," she wrote. "Story now focuses on business integrity behind brand partnerships. Would you be open to comment?" I smiled. The irony wrote itself. I replied, "Yes, on record." The second email was from Tyler. Subject line, "It's done." Inside, 2 attachments, a signed statement and a scanned amendment. The statement restored my co-founder credit publicly and confirmed that all company materials would bear the Ellison and Vance name again. The amendment finalized a 40% buyout for Madison's stake, which had been gifted to her during engagement restructuring. The buyout figure matched the valuation I'd quietly suggested months earlier. Fair, firm, and unarguable. A third message came from my attorney. "Receive the signed files. Everything checks out. Clean exit." I closed my laptop and leaned back. The hum of justice, quiet and methodical, always felt better than applause. I drove to the office late that morning. The front lobby still carried the minimalist rebrand Madison had commissioned. The navy walls, the stylized V logo that pushed my name out of sight. A designer team was already removing signage. One of them asked, "You want the old lettering reinstalled or a full refresh?" I said, "Keep the name, change the light." Inside, Tyler waited in my old office, my nameplate freshly restored to the glass. He stood when I entered, offering his hand. "You got what you wanted," he said. "No," I said. "I got what we agreed to." He nodded. "Same thing, right?" "Not always," I said, "but close enough." He looked older, heavier, not from age, from weight he'd chosen to carry. "She's moving out," he said quietly. "Took her things last night." I didn't gloat, I just nodded once. "You'll breathe easier now." He managed a weak smile. "You really walked away with everything clean, huh?" "Not everything," I said. "Just the part I earned." We went over the settlement briefly. It was smooth. No tension, no raised voices. Years of partnership boiled down to signatures, notarized and sealed. When it ended, he looked up and asked, "You really planned all this the day she cut you out of the photos?" "No," I said. "I planned it the first time someone called me background." He nodded slowly, then extended his hand again. "Guess you were always better at structure than I was." "Structure's what holds the story together," I said. When I left, the office light hit the sign just right, half shadow, half reflection. Ellison and Vance. Balanced again. That afternoon, Lena called. "I just sent the final invoice," she said. "You'll get the receipt in your inbox." "Paid the minute it arrives," I said. She hesitated, then asked, "You okay?" "I'm steady," I said. "That's better than okay." She laughed softly. "You sound lighter." "I am," I said. "Weight belongs to the people who refuse to face themselves." She told me she had a small exhibition coming up, candid portraits titled Unfiltered Moments. "You might recognize one or two faces," she said. I smiled. "Let me know the opening date. I'll be there." Around sunset, I walked back to the venue, not for sentiment, just closure. The parking lot was empty except for a few trucks. The floral arch lay dismantled, petals browned and crushed along the path. Inside, the aisle stood bare, chairs stacked neatly in rows. The same place that had witnessed my erasure now looked like a blank page. I stood at the spot where Madison had told me, "You don't belong in the photos." I said nothing. The silence was its own reply. My phone buzzed. Another message from the magazine editor. Feature approved. Headline, "Respect is good business. We'll run your quote about accountability." I read my own line in her email draft. "In business, as in life, you can't control how people treat you, but you can decide what you'll record and what you'll walk away from." I reread it once. It didn't sound angry. It sounded true. As I left, I caught the last reflection of sunset across the glass doors. My face, the empty hall behind me, the faint echo of what used to be. I took one photo with my phone. No pose, no edit. Just proof of where it ended. By the time I got home, the inbox had doubled again. Congratulations, press requests, even one from an old college friend saying, "You handled that like a surgeon." I didn't reply. Some victories don't need witnesses. Lena texted a few minutes later, "Sending one last file." It was a photo. Me walking out of the venue, light breaking through the doorway, half shadowed, half bright. The caption read, "Framed right." I saved it, then closed my laptop for good. Revenge, I'd learned, isn't about destroying what hurt you. It's about reclaiming the space it tried to take. That night, for the first time in years, I didn't dream about work or contracts or loss. I dreamed about light, golden, balanced, steady. The conference room was the kind of bland that calms tempers. Gray carpet, white walls, humming fluorescent tubes. No windows, no distractions. I chose it on purpose. Drama hates fluorescent light. Tyler walked in with a legal pad and a bottled water. Our attorney, Mark, followed with a folder thick enough to matter, but thin enough to finish today. We shook hands, sat down, and let the hum fill the first minute. Silence lets people find their real voice. "I'm here to fix it," Tyler said, eyes steady but tired. "Good," I answered. "Then let's speak in specifics." Mark placed 3 documents on the table. "Order of operations," he said. "Attribution, ownership, and exit options." Tyler rubbed his thumb along the water label. "Start with attribution." I nodded. "Public statement. Ellison and Vance name restored across all materials. Founding credit listed as co-founders, Grant Ellison and Tyler Vance. No exceptions, no design tweaks." He swallowed. Done. Signed and dated, I added. Push to website, sales deck, and press partners today. Mark clicked a pen. I have language you both approved 2 years ago. We'll reissue it unchanged. Tyler exhaled. Okay, next. Ownership, I said, tapping the second document. Cap table in plain English. You, 52%. Me, 48% vested by performance and time. No phantom units gifted during the engagement. Anything granted to Madison without my sign-off gets unwound. He winced. That grant was complicated. It's simple, I said. You can gift flowers. You can't gift equity you don't control. Mark slid a summary forward. We propose a buyout of Madison's paper stake at a fair market number. No voting rights attached, no ongoing claims. Tyler looked between us. She won't like it. She doesn't have to, I said. She isn't a partner. He nodded slowly. How fast can we make it clean? Today, Mark said. Wire in 5 business days, standard. We shifted to image rights. I kept it short. Files stay with the client who paid, my LLC. I'll license the wedding day gallery back for personal use. No press, no commercial, no edits that change context. Tyler leaned in. And the unflattering candids? Not for publication, I said, but they remain part of the record. He watched me a long second. You're not out to humiliate her. I'm out to restore balance, I said. Humiliation is a side effect of lying. Mark cleared his throat. We'll attach a usage writer, personal archive only. That protects everyone. We paused for coffee. The office manager dropped off. Styrofoam cups, too hot to hold, just like old vendor meetings. Tyler stared at the steam. I should have stopped her sooner. I kept my tone level. You should have noticed sooner. Stopping comes after noticing. He nodded. I kept telling myself it was branding. Branding is a story, I said. Ownership is the contract behind the story. He rubbed his eyes. You know I never wanted to cut you out. I know you didn't want to argue, I said. So you said nothing. He flinched, then straightened. I'm saying something now. Mark opened the last folder. Exit options. Either of you can buy out the other at an agreed valuation. We prepared 2 paths. Path 1, I said. We stay partners with corrections locked, audit rights restored, and a mutual non-disparagement. Path 2, Mark added. Tyler buys 8% of Grant's equity to rebalance cash needs, and Madison's stake is zeroed via buyout. Clean cap table, 2 signatures for major moves, board advisory only. Tyler glanced up. Which do you want? I want you to choose like an owner, I said, not like a husband being coached from the hallway. He let out a breath. Then path 1, plus the Madison buyout. We stay partners, but I want to purchase that 8% to shore up cash. Fair number or no deal, I said. Fair number, he answered. Not a penny less. We worked line by line. No speeches, no sidebars. I pushed for audit access on brand spend. He asked for clearer trigger points on vendor terminations. We added a rule. Any rebrand attempt requires both signatures and a 30-day notice to major clients. We simplified the penalty clause on late lanes so operations could breathe. 30 minutes felt like 10. Friction drops when truth sets the pace. Mark printed the updated draft and laid it flat for signatures. Tyler set his pen down before signing. One thing, he said, will you actually release the wedding files back to us? For personal use, I said. Yes, within 7 days of wires clearing, along with a note that says respect matters. He laughed through his nose. You can't help yourself. I can, I said. I just won't. He nodded. Okay. Mark pointed to the lines. We signed. The fluorescent hum filled the room again, steady as a metronome. When the last page slid into the folder, the air felt lighter, like we'd finally cracked a window. Tyler stood and offered his hand. I'm sorry, he said, looking me in the eye. For what you did, I said, or for what you let happen. Both, he answered. I shook his hand. Then be better than both. He swallowed. You still trust me? I trust the agreement, I said. I trust you to honor it. He nodded, a man relearning his balance. I will. We packed up. He lingered at the door. She'll spin this, he said. Say you bullied me. She can spin, I said. We can ship, and shipping wins. He smiled, faint but real. Back to work? Back to work, I said, and back to correct credits. We walked out into the hallway where the light was even harsher. It didn't matter. Truth looks fine under bad bulbs. Outside, late sun angled between buildings, the first hint of evening gold. I texted Lena a single line. Signed, clean. She replied with a check mark and a camera emoji. Simple, perfect. I slipped the signed copies into my briefcase and felt the weight change. Lighter, manageable, earned. Madison called as I reached the elevator. I let it ring out, then listened to the voicemail. It was polished and brittle. "Congratulations on your little win," she said. "The world still loves a good story." I deleted it. The world also loves a receipt. When I stepped onto the sidewalk, the city sounded normal again. Traffic, footsteps, a bus brake squeal. No victory parade, no dramatic music, just a path forward. Fluorescence had forced us to face what the chandeliers had hidden. That was enough. 3 weeks later, Lena's photo exhibit opened in a small downtown gallery. The walls were clean white, the kind of blankness that made every frame pop. Her show was called Unfiltered Moments. The pieces weren't glossy wedding portraits or brand campaigns. They were slices of reality, caught mid-motion. Faces between smiles, hands fidgeting before applause, truth under decent lighting. I arrived near closing when the noise had thinned to soft conversation and clinking glasses. She spotted me from across the room, camera strap slung across her shoulder like a signature. "You made it," she said. "Wouldn't miss it," I answered. "You named the show after me?" She laughed. "You inspired it." We walked along the frames, slow and quiet. The photo of me, the one she'd sent weeks earlier, hung in the last row. My back to the venue, light catching half my face as I walked away. Beneath it, a small plaque read, "Framed Right, 2025. "Looks better in person," I said. "That's because you were actually there," she said. "Half the people in these photos weren't really present in their own moments." "Occupying space doesn't mean living in it," I said. She smiled. "Exactly." A few guests paused near us, reading the captions. No one recognized me, and that was fine. I didn't need to be famous. I just needed to exist where I'd been erased. Across the room, a familiar voice carried softly. Tyler. He was talking with the gallery manager, wearing a simple gray suit. No entourage, no branding. He saw me and approached carefully, like someone testing the ground before stepping on it. "Grant," he said, offering a hand. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Art's public," I said, "and so is closure." He smiled faintly. "You've changed. Or maybe you're just seeing me without filters," I said. He nodded once, taking in the room. "The magazine piece went live," he said. "Good quote. Balanced. They liked the accountability angle." "It's all they needed," I said. "No drama, just the truth." He looked down at his drink. "Madison read it. And she called it boring." "Then I did it right," I said. We stood quietly for a moment. The hum of conversation filled the pause. Steady and human. "I wanted to say thank you," he said finally, "for not burning everything down." "Fire's easy," I said. "Structure's harder." He gave a small laugh. "You and your structure. It keeps things standing when people don't," I said. He nodded. "We've got 2 new contracts lined up. You should see the numbers." "I already did," I said. "Finance copied me." He grinned. "Still checking every line." "Always," I said. "Numbers don't lie. People just interpret them wrong." He extended his hand again. "Here's to a clean start." I took it. "No more golden hours, just steady light," I said. "Deal," he said, and walked back toward the crowd. Lena came over with 2 glasses of sparkling water. "Truce?" she asked. "More like realignment," I said. "It's the grown-up version." We stood side by side, watching guests drift between frames. Each image told its own quiet story, imperfect, honest, untidy. "You ever think about what revenge actually means?" she asked after a while. "Too often," I said. "It's not fire or payback, it's just balance. Taking back what was tilted. Like reframing a shot," she said. "Exactly." She handed me an envelope. "That's your copy," she said. Inside was a print of Framed Right, signed in small cursive at the bottom, "For the man who turned silence into proof." I traced the edge of the paper. "You didn't have to sign it," I said. "I wanted to," she said. "It's part of the story." We walked out together after closing. The city was quiet, air crisp, neon from nearby bars cutting blue lines on the sidewalk. "You ever going to post your side?" she asked. "No," I said. "People already wrote their versions. I just live mine." She smiled. "You sure you're not writing that down somewhere?" "Already did," I said. "Every clause, every picture, every choice." She laughed. "You're predictable in the best way." "Predictable keeps me out of trouble," I said. We reached her car. She leaned against the door. "So, what's next for you?" "Nothing dramatic," I said. "Steady growth, real clients, people who read contracts before they sign." She nodded. "And maybe fewer weddings?" I smiled. One's enough. She tilted her head. You ever think you'll trust people? Again? I never stopped, I said. I just learned who deserves it. She seemed to like that answer. Good, because you've got decent light around you now. Golden hour's overrated anyway, I said. Fluorescence told the better truth. She laughed softly, got in and drove off. I stood there a while, envelope in hand, city noise wrapping around me like static. I looked at the print once more before sliding it back into the sleeve. My face half lit, half shadow. A man framed by his own boundaries. Not angry, not erased, just there. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was record-keeping, the kind that outlasts applause. As I walked home under the streetlights, I thought of every man who's ever been told he didn't belong. In a room, in a story, in a photo. Maybe this one was for them too, because sometimes the best payback isn't taking their picture away. It's making sure yours finally hangs on the wall. If my story hit close to home, give this video a like, share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more real stories like mine. Respect and truth always deserve a frame.